to start though?
Live. Live.
We're live. How cheapo you are? Okay, fine.
I think we're live, Menaka.
Oh, is it? Oh, there we go. Sorry, we keep squabbling about who should start the live first. So this is a relatively quick, set of takeaways from the budget. Ira and I have been talking to people through the course of the day, and we're trying to distill all of that on what it means for different stakeholders, including the Aam Aadmi. Nothing came through for that.
Yeah,
so
exactly. That's an easy one.
Yeah, but we'll try and examine it from the point of view of consumption. But I know that the one thing that stood out in all the conversations you and I had, Ira, through the day was that you were glad that the budget has taken this capex view, which is a medium to long view. So let's discuss that first, pros and cons, and then we'll get on to some of the other, sort of takeaways from the budget. So.
Yeah, I think, look, everybody wanted that capex increase. It's actually been more than what people had expected. I remember speaking to Vinayak Chatterjee before the budget, and he said 7 lakh crore, and I said that's really optimistic, and we've come in at 7.5 lakh crore, assuming that number is clean, because there's still some back and forth on doing the math, but assuming that number is clean, that's a really large jump and a large bet on the fact that you will be able to get this capex on the ground. You will be able to sort of get construction activity going. That's the first sector which tends to pick up. You will create jobs, and then you pick up from there, create demand. Crowd in private investment. It's a long bet. It's also a bit of a gamble, because when you've raised your capital expenditure so much, you've kept your revenue expenditure flat, right? So you could argue that may not be ideal. Economy is recovering, yes, but there are still pockets of vulnerability. No?
That's where my skepticism comes in, and I'm going to say stuff that you already know of, and I'm sure you have responses to that. But I remember the same conversation you had with Vinayak, and he said, "Where are the projects?"
Yes.
Okay. So I have questions about this 7 lakhs, the ability to spend, execution, viability.
Yeah.
When you are, if you want to spend this within a year's time, because otherwise, what's the point of the allocation in an annual budget, right?
Yes.
If you want to spend this within the year's time, do you have pre-identified projects that you're going to spend this on? Did they spell out enough? They spoke of roads, they spoke of railways,
yes.
They spoke of some logistical points like, mega cargo sort of warehouses and things like that. But are these identified? Can you deploy the money quickly enough? Will it be viable infrastructure?
Yeah.
All of those questions are questions that come to me first before I even get to whether did you take away too much from the RevEx or revenue expenditure side?
Look, there's no answer to that. I think the skepticism, we've all lived through the past cycle, right? We've all saw what happened. So I think all of us will be skeptical and we'll ask the question. The only flip side to it is that because of that skepticism, do you not try it at all again? If not, do you...
7 lakh crore in 1 year?
Yeah, it's a big number. It's certainly a big number. There was that one chart in the budget documents which basically showed that it's largely on roads and rails. So transport. Right. This
was in the economic survey yesterday.
It was there yesterday. It was there today as well. It's in the roads and rails. So transport, as the budget, one of the budget documents called it, is where much of the increase is coming. So I guess,
by the way, there was a port chart in that which showed port traffic declining and port capacity substantially increasing, which is why I come to the question of viability. Now, of course, we can argue this to death, but we've raised the, sort of the critical issues. I just wonder, you put out in your big budget numbers story the fact that they have narrowed the spend on Manrega, which is the Rural Jobs Guarantee Program, as well as on the food giveaways that they've been doing for the last 2 years of the pandemic. And I'm really surprised. Is it because they think that the economy is coming back faster than we can see it? That this relief is not needed anymore?
Yeah, no, that surprised me as well, because look, I completely got the logic of higher capex. I get that, but could you have made the increase a bit more modest and kept money on the table for Manrega and for food subsidies? I think there are enough people who would have argued that budget up front, at least for the expanded food transfer program continuing beyond March. Manrega, I think we've had this debate ad nauseum. They keep saying that it's a demand-led scheme, we will allocate more to it, but why not allocate up front? I don't get it. And I think you were speaking to a couple of sort of corporate leaders, and they did say that some consumption smoothing would have been helpful.
Yeah, they were surprised. So I think, look, they all say that private investment is slowly coming back, consumption is slowly normalizing, but it really is the slowly that's worrying all of us, right?
Yeah,
it's been now a year and a half of severe pain for certain income groups, and really nothing to ameliorate that at all. In fact, even less money this year to ameliorate that, so I was surprised. I wasn't surprised at all by the fact that she didn't change anything on personal income tax. We discussed this in the morning. Yeah. I can't see what's to be gained from that. Too few people in this country pay tax anyways. So middle income, middle class India, I was really not surprised about that. Nothing happened for them. It was the lower income class that I found that the skew was so heavily in favor of capex and not revenue expenditure. I think that's where I was left a little bit surprised.
Yeah, I think it's a long game, right? I mean, if it plays out and if you can get, a virtuous cycle of investment, jobs, income going, two thumbs up, but so much skepticism there, and also the long game, right? It's taking the long road to, which may be the right thing to do, because it has been pointed out that the large sort of upfront consumption spending done in developed economies is what is leading to this inflation spike. So I'm sure the government would argue that, look, we're taking the more prudent path out, whether you believe them or not.
We saw yield spike today, though, and I'm just thinking, I mean, how sharp does this yield curve move up? How sharply does it move up? And at what point can it start hurting both the return of private investment, though many balance sheets are now deleveraged, but still both the return of private investment and weaken consumption further.
Yeah, no, we was, speaking to Anant Narayan, who's a veteran of the bond markets, and he was just pointing out how large the borrowing pressure is, because there's not just 15 lakh crore coming in from the central government, there is going to be state government borrowing as well. So you're talking, gross borrowings in excess of some 20 lakh crore, which is just a huge number. You saw markets, very, very turbulent today. Also on the demand side, there was no mention of the global bond listings. So I think there was a double whammy for bond markets.
I'm not shedding any tears on that one. Sorry.
I know.
Too many budgets, we've discussed that. Right?
I know.
Maybe
it's
the
a tough
7
one.
lakh is just on paper. Can I say that? And I don't mean to say it critically of the government, but maybe they've just put it out there on paper saying, look, this is our intent. Because we have seen in past budgets that they make allocations, and those allocations don't necessarily get consumed by their own ministries. In fact, we just saw the Accountability Initiative put out a series of reports on government schemes being able to consume at max 60 to 70% of the year's allocation, and not all of it. Even the 5.5 lakh that you're talking about for FY22, which is 2 months away from completion, they've spent 60-70% of it. How in 2 months are they going to finish spending the rest?
Till about December. So it's possible that look, I take your point that the budget numbers may not work out, but what you have to go on is the budget numbers. But the market will start responding to some of this skepticism. Will the revenue number be higher? Will the expenditure be lower? Will there be some switches with the RBI? All of those little things will start to perhaps cool down the market and bond deals a little bit. But it's going to be a tough year for borrowings. It's 100% going to be a tough year. It's going to be a volatile year.
It's a good thing for fixed deposit investors, if I can call it that. That's the only silver lining I can see in this. Look, we've discussed the capex thrust. We've discussed the fact that nothing was done on the personal income tax side. Thankfully, nothing much was done on the corporate tax side as well, not expected. There were two other surprises.
Crypto taxation.
Crypto was not a surprise at all.
Not a surprise, but I'm sure it'll get outsized attention, if I can call it that.
Well, through the course of the afternoon, social media was flooded with crypto conversations. But, that was expected. And really, I don't think anybody should sweat over the fact that they put a 30% capital gains tax rate on crypto. Nothing to complain.
That's not out of line, right? That's not out of line of expectations.
It's higher than the 10 to 20% for long-term capital gains on other assets. And in short-term capital gains, on non-listed equity assets, you pay capital gains at the rate of your tax slab.
Okay.
So 30, depending on what tax slab you are in, might be exactly what you would have paid or more. But it is on the higher side, and no loss offsetting. But I'm not complaining about that. I was surprised by the SCZ policy, and I've been trying to get more detail on this from officials of the finance ministry, because I know all the IT services firms will want to know more. Given that the sunset clause kicked in, a little over a year ago, what are they hoping to replace the SCZ Act with? And that will be actually interesting to know, because I know that there's been a big push towards enhancing services exports as well, right? I think that to me was, I wasn't
we don't have
expecting
any
it in the
details
budget.
on it, and we don't know
Very
what their
sketchy.
intention is either.
So they've said that they intend to make this reform happen by September 2022. That's what they said in the budget speech.
Okay.
And that they said in the section in taxes where they were referring to cleaning up customs, etc., pertaining to this, whatever will replace SEZ. So this SEZ-like law. But I'm surprised, and I'm really hopeful of getting more details on that, because I know all the large IT firms that function out of SEZs will want to know about that. That was interesting. Otherwise,
I think I would love to get more information on the central bank digital currency. It's conceptually a very, very interesting
so the finance
project.
minister kept tossing it back, right? Every time she was asked about that.
There's zero detail on how they intend to implement it. I believe there is an RBI pilot project already underway. Does it go through banks? I suspect it will go through banks. What is sort of the structure? It will be cash, so it won't be interest bearing. But there are just so many interesting questions here, all futuristic, because it's not like tomorrow there's going to be no 10 rupee note and no 100 rupee note, and we're all going to be only working on our phones. But conceptually, just fabulously interesting.
Yeah, that's just one of two of us, because I still haven't even tried UPI.
Oh,
so
dear God.
Very
I don't think you should. I don't think you should publicly admit that anymore.
Hey, look, but can I be honest? I mean, my technology works for me. Debit card online. I don't need anything.
I thought you were going to say my technology works for me. Pull out your wallet and take out
cash. Oh no, cash I give.
Note.
Okay, I progressed away from cash, but okay. The last thing, which is a positive thing about this budget, I think all the numbers pretty much are believable, right? Whether it is the fiscal deficit targets and therefore the underlying revenue targets, which is the tax collection targets, or even the divestment number, which prompted so many questions at the finance ministry briefing today, all believable.
Yeah, I agree. And I think you have to give them credit. Well, they were the ones who messed it up in the beginning. So, but that trend of lack of transparency in the budget, that trend of trying to hide numbers, here, there, left, right, center, that seems to have ended. And I was watching the press conference with the finance ministry officials, and it was visible in their tone and tenor. When somebody put a question on numbers to them, they answered with confidence, they answered clearly, and that's great to see.
I think this comes from the finance secretary who sort of cleaned up the books, really, in the last 2 years and made sure that a lot of below-the-line stuff is all reflected in the numbers, and all the numbers are believable. And in fact, they had to defend their lower divestment targets today because many people were confused about, hey, where are you accounting for the LIC IPO in this? And I think the DIPAM secretary then said, look, we want to have real numbers out there, because unreal numbers can disrupt private markets often, especially when you're going to the market with a very large issue. Then he also said that the valuation process at LIC is still underway. So, don't make assumptions on what the size of that IPO is. And then he did also say that, look, we can always exceed this. Nothing stops us from exceeding this. So I think those were broadly the takeaways. A bunch of small other things. I think Kisan drones, got some attention on social media. Like in all budgets, a litany of other smaller announcements. But these were the big takeaways. Did we miss anything?
No, I don't think so. Well, I hope not.
Okay. All right. Look, you can get a lot more detailed coverage on everything Ira and I have spoken about on BloombergQuint.com. So make sure you go there. Ira's done a fabulous story on all the key numbers for the budget. So that's the best story you can read on the numbers. And we've also compiled many of our top stories into quick takeaways for you, so you can consume the budget in exactly the bite sizes that you want. And I know that the Aam Aadmi on the street will be asking, but mujhe kya mila budget mein? Well, nothing.
The emoji, the frowning face emoji, unfortunately.
Hopefully, when all those roads are built and the new trains come your way and jobs are created, that is all to the benefit of the Aam Aadmi, like the finance minister said. So thanks very much for tuning in, and we'll see you with more budget coverage through the course of this week. Did we miss anything? No.
I don't think so.
No. And in all of this, future Amazon judgment
I know,
is
I didn't
uploaded.
see what there was some